Hello, this is Neal at the Garrett Public Library for this week's Railroader Reading. Hopefully, you've had a fair to midland week just as I. For this month of many holiday celebrations, I've selected a couple short stories by author Robert Fulghum. I had picked up his book titled It Was on Fire When I Laid Down on It at a garage sale some years ago and enjoyed his musings. He describes his book as a kind of show and tell of items like many of us brought to school in our early childhood years. First up is about the life of a man that time may have forgotten. John Pierpoint died a failure. In 1866, at age 81, he came to the end of his days as a government clerk in Washington, D.C., with a long string of personal defeats abrading his spirit. Things began well enough. He graduated from Yale, which his grandfather had helped found, and chose education as his profession with some enthusiasm. He was a failure at school teaching. He was too easy on his students. And so he turned to the legal world of training. He was a failure as a lawyer. He was too generous to his clients and too concerned about justice to take the cases that brought good fees. The next career he took up was that of dry goods merchant. He was a failure as a businessman. He could not charge enough for his goods to make a profit and was too liberal with credit. In the meantime, he had been writing poetry, and though it was published, he didn't collect enough royalties to make a living. He was a failure as a poet, and so he decided to become a minister. Went off to Harvard Divinity School, was ordained as minister of the Hollis Street Church in Boston, but his position for prohibition and against slavery got him crosswise with the influential members of his congregation, and he was forced to resign. He was a failure as a minister. Politics seemed a place where he could make some difference, and he was nominated as the Abolition Party candidate for governor of Massachusetts. He lost. Undaunted, he ran for Congress under the banner of the Free Soil Party. He lost. He was a failure as a politician. The Civil War came along, and he volunteered as a chaplain of the 22nd Regiment of the Massachusetts Volunteers. 2 weeks later, he quit. Having found the task too much of a strain on his health, he was 76 years old. He couldn't even make it as a chaplain. Someone found him an obscure job in the back offices of the Treasury Department in Washington, and he finished out the last 5 years of his life as a menial file clerk. He wasn't very good at that either. His heart was not in it. John Pierpoint died a failure. He had accomplished nothing he set out to do or be. There is a small memorial stone marking his grave in Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The words in the granite read, "Poet, preacher, philosopher, philanthropist." From this distance in time, one might insist that he was not, in fact, a failure. His commitments to social justice, his desire to be a loving human being, his active engagement in the great issues of his times, and his faith in the power of the human mind. These are not failures, and much of what he thought of as defeat became success. Education was reformed. Legal processes were improved. Credit laws were changed. And above all, slavery was abolished once and for all. Why am I telling you this? It's not an uncommon story. Many 19th century reformers had similar lives, similar failures, and successes. In one very important sense, John Pierpoint was not a failure. Every year, come December, we celebrate his success. We carry in our hearts and minds a lifelong memorial to him. It's a song, not about Jesus or angels or even Santa Claus. It's a terribly simple song about the simple joy of whizzing through the cold white dark of winter's gloom, in a sleigh pulled by one horse, and with the company of friends, laughing and singing all the way. No more, no less. Jingle bells. John Pierpoint wrote Jingle Bells. To write a song that stands for the simplest joys, to write a song that 300 or 400 million people around the world know, a song about something they've never done but can imagine, a song that every one of us, large and small, can hoot out the moment the chord is struck on the piano, and the chord is struck in our spirit. Well, that's not failure. One snowy afternoon in deep winter, John Pierpoint penned the lines as a small gift for his family and friends and congregation, and in doing so left behind a permanent gift for Christmas, the best kind, not the one under the tree, but the invisible, invincible one of joy. Postscript: in the winter of 1987, in the Mathau Valley of the Cascade Mountains of Washington State, I finally got a long-held wish. The snow was 3 feet deep. The temperature hung at 0. The sky was clear. The sleigh was open. The horse was dappled gray with red harness and bells. And we dashed over the snow, laughing all the way. Thanks, John Pierpoint. Every word of the song is true. The last story is a major part of this season: love. The cardboard box is marked "The Good Stuff." As I write, I can see the box where it is stored on a high shelf in my studio. I like being able to see it when I look up. The box contains those odds and ends of personal treasures that have survived many bouts of clean it out and throw it away that seize me from time to time. The box has passed through the screening done as I've moved from house to house and hauled stuff from attic to attic. A thief looking into the box would not take anything. He couldn't get over a dime for it anyway. But if the house ever catches on fire, the box goes with me when I run. One of the keepsakes in the box is a small paper bag, lunch size. Though the top is sealed with duct tape, staples, and several paper clips, there is a ragged rip in one side through which the contents may be seen. This particular lunch sack has been in my care for maybe 14 years, but it really belongs to my daughter, Molly. Soon after she came of school age, she became an enthusiastic participant in packing the morning lunches for herself, her brothers, and me. Each bag got a share of sandwiches, apples, milk money, and sometimes a note or a treat. One morning, Molly handed me 2 bags as I was about to leave. One regular lunch sack, and the one with duct tape and staples and paper clips. Why 2 bags? The other one is something else. What's in it? Just some stuff. Take it with you. Not wanting to hold court over the matter, I stuffed both sacks into my briefcase, kissed the child, and rushed off. At midday, while hurriedly scarfing down my real lunch, I tore open Molly's bag and shook out the contents. 2 hair ribbons, 3 small stones, a plastic dinosaur, a pencil stub, a tiny seashell, 2 animal crackers, a marble, a used lipstick, a small doll, 2 chocolate kisses, and 13 pennies. I smiled. How charming! Rising to hustle off to all the important business of the afternoon, I swept the desk clean, into the wastebasket, leftover lunch, Molly's junk, and all. There wasn't anything in there I needed. That evening, Molly came to stand beside me while I was reading the paper. Where's my bag? What bag? You know, the one I gave you this morning. I left it at the office. Why? I forgot to put this note in it. She hands over the note. Besides, I want it back. Why? Those are my things in the sack, Daddy, the ones I really like. I thought you might like to play with them, but now I want them back. You didn't lose the bag, did you, Daddy? Tears puddled in her eyes. Oh, no, I just forgot to bring it home, I lied. Bring it tomorrow, okay? Sure thing, don't worry. As she hugged my neck with relief, I unfolded the note that had not got into the sack. I love you, Daddy. Oh, and also, uh-oh. I looked long at the face of my child. She was right. That was in the sack was something else. Molly had given me her treasures, all that a 7-year-old held dear. Love in a paper sack. And I had missed it. Not only missed it, but had thrown it in the wastebasket because there wasn't anything in there I needed. Dear God. It wasn't the first or the last time I felt my daddy permit was about to run out. It was a long trip back to the office, but there was nothing else to be done. So I went, the pilgrimage of a penitent. Just ahead of the janitor, I picked up the wastebasket and poured the contents on my desk. I was sorting it all out when the janitor came in to do his chores. Lose something? Yeah, my mind. It's probably in there. All right. What's it look like? And I'll help you find it. I started not to tell him, but I couldn't feel any more of a fool than I was already in fact. So I told him. He didn't laugh. He smiled. I got kids too. So the Brotherhood of Fools searched the trash and found the jewels, and he smiled at me, and I smiled at him. You are never alone in these things. Never. After washing the mustard off the dinosaur and spraying the whole thing with breath freshener to kill the smell of onions, I carefully smoothed out the wadded ball of brown paper into a semi-functional bag and put the treasures inside and carried the whole thing home, gingerly, like an injured kitten. The next evening, I returned it to Molly. No questions asked, no explanations offered. The bag didn't look so good, but the stuff was all there, and that's what counted. After dinner, I asked her to tell me about the stuff in the sack, and so she took it all out, a piece at a time, and placed the objects in a row on the dining room table. It took a long time to tell. Everything had a story, a memory, or was attached to dreams and imaginary friends. Fairies had brought some of the things, and I had given her the chocolate kisses, and she had kept them for when she needed them. I managed to say, I see, very wisely several times in the telling, and as a matter of fact, I did see. To my surprise, Molly gave the bag to me once again several days later. Same ratty bag, same stuff inside. I felt forgiven and trusted and loved, and a little more comfortable wearing the title of father. Over several months, the bag went with me from time to time. It was never clear to me why I did or did not get it on a given day. I began to think of it as the daddy prize and tried to be good the night before so I might be given it the next morning. In time, Molly turned her attention to other things, found other treasures, lost interest in the game, grew up. Something? Me? I was left holding the bag. She gave it to me one morning and never asked for its return. And so I have it still. Sometimes I think of all the times in this sweet life when I must have missed the affection I was being given. A friend calls this standing knee-deep in the river and dying of thirst. So the worn paper sack is there in the box, left over from a time when a child said, Here, this is the best I've got. Take it, it's yours. Such as I have, give I to thee. I missed it the first time, but it's my bag now. So have as many very merry holidays as you can, and a happy new year. Until the next time we virtually meet. Over and out.